I arrived at my wife's law firm's grand opening celebration only to witness everyone erupt in laughter and pointing. "The test-run husband is here," they jeered. Then my wife presented me with an envelope. "The inaugural assignment for our firm is your divorce. Sign and depart." So I turned and walked away. I promptly canceled every planned celebratory trip and withdrew my $20 million investment in her venture. Mere minutes later, my phone buzzed incessantly with 456 missed calls, and someone appeared at my doorstep. You know the old adage about karma? Sometimes she's a patient entity, taking her sweet time to enact retribution. But tonight, as I make my entrance into the Hilton's atrium, resplendent in my finest Tom Ford suit and sporting a grin that could charm an Arctic explorer into buying ice, I have absolutely no inkling that karma is about to work overtime. The venue is absolutely electric. Glistening crystal chandeliers cast a dazzling array of prismatic colors across polished marble floors that likely cost more than the average person's automobile. The very air is infused with the scent of success, mingled with the aroma of exorbitantly priced champagne, and that distinct aura of smug self-importance that emanates solely from legal professionals who believe they've conquered the world. The ultimate irony: every single cent funding this opulent spectacle originated from my personal finances. I am Marcus Hale, 42 years of age, possessing that inherent confidence born from transforming a modest technology startup into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, all while my contemporaries were still grappling with email etiquette, often inadvertently hitting reply all. This evening marks the official inauguration of Hale & Winters LLP, my wife's lifelong professional aspiration, which I've been bankrolling like some kind of legal benefactor. As I navigate the throng, offering nods to familiar faces from country club gatherings and charitable galas, I'm actually feeling rather pleased with myself. This is my triumph too, is it not? After all, without the substantial financial backing of Marcus Hale, there would be no Hale & Winters LLP, no lavish affair complete with ice sculptures and champagne fountains reminiscent of a Las Vegas hotel lobby. But then I overhear it. A snarky remark delivered with a dismissive tone that slices through the ambient conversation like a sharp blade through soft butter. A junior associate, likely fresh from law school and still wet behind the ears, leans into his companion and sneers, "Well, well, looks like the test-run husband has arrived." Test-run husband. The phrase lands like a physical blow. Nevertheless, I maintain my stride, my smile fixed, for that is the Marcus Hale way. One doesn't betray vulnerability to some inconsequential individual in an ill-fitting suit. Internally, however, a chilling sensation begins to coil and twist in my gut. I scan the room, searching for Clara, and there she is, my wife of 8 years, standing at the podium as if she commands the very universe. And I must concede, she is breathtaking. Her dark hair is swept back into an immaculate chignon that surely occupied her stylist for a considerable duration. She wears that diamond necklace I presented her with on our anniversary last year, the one whose value surpasses the annual earnings of most individuals. She radiates under the glow of the chandeliers, accepting accolades and air kisses from the most influential figures in New York's legal sphere. Judge Robert Winters, her father and a titan of the city's judicial system, observes with paternal pride from his prominent position. Victor Cross, her business partner and the recipient of my checks for the past 2 years, stands nearby, Exuding an air of triumphant satisfaction in his custom-tailored Armani, Clara's gaze meets mine, and she offers a smile. Yet, something is amiss. It lacks the warmth and sincerity that once captivated me. This smile is different. It's calculated, as though she's already rehearsed every impending action. She gently taps her champagne flute with a silver spoon, and an immediate hush falls over the room. Every eye turns toward the podium. Every conversation halts mid-utterance. The silence is so profound that one could hear a pin drop, a remarkable feat considering our location in the heart of Manhattan. Ladies and gentlemen, Clara commences, her voice possessing that polished, assured cadence she employs in court. Thank you all for gracing us with your presence this evening to commemorate the launch of Hale & Winters LLP. This firm embodies my lifelong professional pursuits, the culmination of dreams I harbored since I was a child, observing my father preside over his courtroom. A wave of appreciative murmurs ripples through the assembly. Someone exclaims, "Hear, hear," and raises their glass in salute. But then Clara performs an action that sends a jolt of ice through my veins. She reaches into her evening clutch, the very same Chanel handbag I gifted her at Christmas, and withdraws a manila envelope. It's plain, unremarkable, the sort of mailer that could contain anything from tax documents to mere grocery lists. However, she continues, and I swear the temperature in the room plummets by several degrees. Before we officially commence our service to justice in this city, I have one preliminary matter to address. She descends from the podium, the click of her heels on the marble floor echoing like a ticking clock. Each step brings her closer to my position, and with every stride, that chilling sensation in my stomach intensifies. The crowd parts as if before the Red Sea. As she approaches, I feel the weight of countless eyes upon me, and I hear the whispers begin to circulate like an agitated swarm of hornets. A camera flash from a mobile device, then another. Clara halts directly before me, close enough for me to detect the familiar scent of her perfume, the same Chanel No. 5 she's worn since our second date. Her smile persists, but now I perceive its true nature. It is devoid of love, gratitude, or even basic human kindness. It is a chilling blend of pity and a disquieting hint of satisfaction. "Marcus," she announces, her voice amplified sufficiently for the entire room to hear. "You have been extraordinarily generous and supportive, and I wish for everyone present to know that the inaugural case Hale & Winters LLP will undertake is one held very dear to my heart." She extends the envelope towards me, as though bestowing an award at some perverse ceremony. The paper feels substantial in my grasp, imbued with unspoken possibilities I'd rather not confront. "The first case for my law firm," she declares, turning back to address the assembly with that same practiced smile, "is my divorce. Marcus, I require you to sign these documents and depart this evening." The pronouncement hangs in the air, heavy and stark, like the aftermath of a gunshot. For a suspended moment, absolute silence reigns. Then applause erupts, initially sporadic, then escalating in volume. Some attendees gasp, covering their mouths with their hands as if witnessing a slow-motion automobile accident. Others are capturing the spectacle on their phones, likely preparing to upload it to social media with hashtags like "Gas Lawyer Life" and "Power Move." I stand there, clutching the envelope, feeling like the most utter fool to have ever walked the earth. This is my capital funding this entire soiree. These are my connections filling this space. I am the architect of this entire evening's success, and now I'm being summarily dismissed like an overstayed guest or a hired hand whose tenure has expired. The humiliation should be overwhelming, the betrayal soul-crushing. 8 years of marriage, 2 years of supporting her professional ambitions, $20 million of my own fortune, all reduced to a manila envelope and a public immolation before the most influential figures in New York's legal community. But you know what? I don't raise my voice. I don't hurl the envelope back at her. I refrain from creating the scene that many undoubtedly anticipate, the dramatic breakdown that would furnish them with gossip fodder for their country club brunches for months to come. Instead, I do something that likely astonishes everyone in that room, perhaps even myself. I fold the envelope in half, slip it into my jacket pocket, and proceed toward the exit with my head held high. As I move through the crowd, I can discern the renewed murmurs and feel their gazes tracking my every movement. Yet I continue past the ice sculptures and champagne fountains, past the marble floors and crystal chandeliers, past every element I funded but apparently never truly possessed. Outside, the New York night air embraces my face like a welcome balm. I loosen my tie, allowing the cool breeze to dissipate the cloying atmosphere of that overpriced hotel ballroom. And then, standing on the sidewalk with the city lights reflecting off the damp pavement, I do something that would undoubtedly shock everyone still inside, celebrating my public disgrace. I smile. Not the forced, practiced grimace from earlier, but a genuine, albeit subtle, expression of amusement. You see, here's the fundamental truth about being Marcus Hale that eludes those assembled in that room. I didn't achieve my current standing through mere foolishness. I didn't construct a multi-million-dollar empire by placing blind faith in others. And I certainly didn't survive the cutthroat business arena without a few strategic contingency plans tucked away. They believe they've achieved victory. They perceive this as the conclusion of the narrative. The gullible husband duped by his ambitious spouse and her smooth-talking associate. They assume Marcus Hale has been thoroughly taken advantage of. They haven't witnessed a fraction of what's to come. The actual game has only just begun. You know what's truly amusing about betrayal? It's akin to food poisoning. Initially, you experience confusion and discomfort. But then the full force hits you, and suddenly everything becomes astonishingly clear. By the time I reach my apartment on the Upper East Side, that clarity is searing through me like corrosive acid. I pour myself a generous measure of Macallan 25, the premium stuff I reserve for truly exceptional occasions, though I suppose being publicly divorced at your wife's law firm's inaugural event qualifies as exceptional in the most perverse sense imaginable. The amber liquid burns as it descends, but it pales in comparison to the inferno building in my chest since I exited that spectacle. My apartment feels altered now, subdued. All those subtle embellishments that once symbolized a successful married couple, the matching decorative cushions Clara insisted upon, the wedding photographs in their expensive frames, the abstract artwork she selected for its investment potential, now appear as mere set dressing from a play in which I was unknowingly cast. But I'm not here for self-pity. I have work to attend to. I head directly to my study, past the floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a $1 million panorama of Central Park. Most people believe the view is the room's defining feature, but they would be mistaken. The true marvel resides behind the custom-built bookshelf, where a concealed panel retracts to reveal my personal vault. This is no ordinary hotel safe for stowing passports and a modest sum of cash. This is a formidable repository, fireproof, waterproof, and capacious enough to house all that truly matters. I enter the access code, and the heavy door swings open with a satisfying click. Within, meticulously organized with a level of precision that would elicit tears of joy from a Swiss banker, are my principal assets, not stocks, bonds, or cryptocurrency holdings. Those are for the uninitiated. No, these are the documents that distinguish the strategists from the pawns, the predators from the prey. I retrieve the first binder, as thick as a telephone directory, labeled in my own hand, Hale and Winters LLP Financial Structure. Every page unveils a narrative, and indeed, it's quite a revelation. Here's what Clara and her smarmy associate Victor failed to grasp about Marcus Hale. I do not simply disperse funds with the hope of favorable outcomes. When I invest, I meticulously document every transaction. When I issue a check, I establish a traceable record that even a visually impaired accountant with dyslexia could follow. The initial section details the seed capital, $5 million transferred from my personal account to establish the firm's operating funds. Clara believed it to be a generous gift, a loving husband supporting his wife's ambitions. In reality, it was a loan with explicit stipulations she neglected to peruse, far too preoccupied with selecting office furnishings and orchestrating launch parties. Next, the office lease. That opulent corner suite on Madison Avenue, complete with a mahogany conference table and a view of the Chrysler Building, commanding $40,000 per month? Yes, that agreement is in my name, accompanied by the security deposit receipt for $200,000. I leaf through further pages, each a small insurance policy I never envisioned needing to cash. Interior design costs amounted to an additional $250,000 for Clara's concept of sophisticated legal ambiance. The bespoke law library, featuring first edition legal texts and hand-carved shelving, represented a six-figure investment. The cutting-edge computer system and case management software, another $100,000. But the most significant expenditure was the recruitment costs. Clara and Victor embarked on a hiring spree, as if assembling the legal equivalent of the New York Yankees. They enticed senior associates from prestigious firms, offering signing bonuses and inflated salaries that would make Wall Street executives envious. Every single one of those offers was underwritten by my capital, and each contract contained a clause stipulating their employment was contingent upon the firm's financial stability. As I meticulously review these documents, a sensation begins to stir within me. Initially, I mistake it for a resurgence of humiliation, but then I recognize it for what it truly is: laughter. A dark, sardonic laughter, tasting of revenge served at room temperature. Because here's the crucial insight that is crystallizing with each review of my meticulous record keeping. For the past 2 years, I haven't been Clara's husband. I have been her financial institution, a human ATM adorned with a wedding ring and a joint bank account. Every dinner party where she proudly introduced me as her husband, the tech entrepreneur, she was implicitly acknowledging me as her financier, someone unfamiliar with the intricacies of law. Every time she solicited my opinion on hiring, decisions, or office locations, she was merely engaging in polite discourse while expending my funds. Every impassioned speech about building something enduring and meaningful was, in fact, a declaration of constructing it on my dime, all while plotting my exclusion from the endeavor. I retrieve my laptop and begin cross-referencing these documents with my bank statements. The pattern is now so glaringly obvious that I'm astonished I overlooked it. Every substantial expenditure for the firm coincided with Clara's late nights at the office, her client dinners that invariably included Victor, and her return home with that particular radiance I foolishly attributed to professional fulfillment. $20 million. That is the cumulative sum when accounting for every check, every wire transfer, every credit card transaction I've made to support Hale and Winters LLP. $20 million to subsidize my wife's extramarital affair and orchestrate my own public degradation. But herein lies the critical miscalculation by Clara and Victor. They presumed I was merely another affluent individual who achieved success through serendipity and maintained it by throwing money at challenges. They envisioned me as the type of individual who signs documents without thorough examination and trusts others out of convenience rather than suspicion. They clearly neglected to thoroughly investigate the operational methodologies of Marcus Hale. Every single one of these financial transactions was structured as a business investment, not a marital endowment. Each contract incorporates performance metrics, accountability provisions, and most crucially, exit strategies. Clara never bothered to scrutinize the fine print, too engrossed in planning her grand unveiling as New York's preeminent legal power couple. I close the binder and reach for the next one, corporate structure and silent partner agreements. This is where the situation becomes truly compelling. You see, when one injects $20 million into a nascent law firm, even one helmed by one's devoted wife, the process involves more than simply issuing checks and hoping for the best. It entails establishing legal frameworks to safeguard the investment. One formally positions oneself as a silent partner with clearly delineated rights and responsibilities. These rights include the authority to freeze corporate accounts if fiscal probity is called into question. They encompass mandatory disclosure of all significant expenditures, and they include the prerogative to unilaterally withdraw invested capital under clauses pertaining to breaches of fiduciary duty. The ingenious aspect of this entire arrangement is that Clara herself affixed her signature to every one of these agreements. She was so eager to access my financial resources that she barely scanned the corporate documentation, likely assuming it was mere legal boilerplate, the sort of administrative paperwork one signs when a husband exhibits excessive caution in protecting his assets. I recline in my chair and take another sip of that Macallan, savoring both the whiskey and the exquisite irony. At this precise moment, Clara and Victor are likely still at the Hilton, basking in the afterglow of their strategic maneuver, receiving congratulations from those legal eagles who bore witness to my public undoing. They believe they have triumphed. They are convinced that Marcus Hale has been outmaneuvered by the two most astute individuals in the room. They are probably already strategizing on how to disperse my $20 million, perhaps even exchanging jests about the ease with which a fool can be separated from his wealth. What they fail to comprehend is that Marcus Hale does not permit himself to be outmaneuvered. He excels at the game, surpassing all others. And on occasion, this entails allowing individuals to believe they are succeeding until the very instant they realize they have been checkmated. I close the vault and pour myself another libation. Tomorrow, the true process of education will commence. Tonight, I am simply a man in an expensive apartment, surrounded by tangible evidence of the most significant error in judgment his wife has ever made. But then again, we all err. The key is to ensure that one's mistakes are not fatal. You understand what distinguishes highly successful individuals from the rest of the populace? Timing. It's not merely about knowing what actions to take, but precisely when to execute them. And as I sit in my study at precisely 2:47 in the morning, nursing my third glass of Macallan and fixated on my laptop screen, I realize my timing has never been more opportune. The city outside my windows is largely at rest, but I am wide awake, possessed by a clarity that can only emerge from having one's world fundamentally disrupted and subsequently perceived in its true orientation. Clara and Victor are likely already asleep in some opulent 5-star hotel suite, intoxicated by champagne and their own perceived intellectual prowess. They believe they have executed the ultimate heist, pilfering $20 million and a law firm from Marcus Hale, while simultaneously portraying him as a buffoon before a significant segment of New York's legal establishment. What eludes them is the fact that Marcus Hale does not slumber when there is critical work to be accomplished. And tonight, there is undeniably significant work to be done. I crack my knuckles and activate my laptop, the cool blue luminescence of the screen reflecting in the empty whiskey glass beside me. My initial destination, the firm's online banking portal. Clara likely presumes I no longer possess access. Perhaps she has even gone so far as to alter the passwords in some amateur attempt at digital security. She has always been overly trusting, too inclined to accept individuals at their superficial presentation. But here's the essential truth about being the individual who financed the entirety of this enterprise. One ensures a persistent access point. The login credentials I committed to memory when we initially established the corporate accounts remain perfectly functional. The backup email address designated for password recovery, my personal Gmail account, not Clara's. The security questions all answered with information known only to me. I am within the system within 30 seconds, and the information displayed elicits a genuine smile, the first I've experienced since that debacle at the Hilton. The account balance displays precisely what I anticipated: $847,000 in operating capital, comfortably resting in the primary business checking account. Furthermore, there is the money market account holding an additional $1.2 million in reserve funds, alongside the expense account Victor has been utilizing to finance his and Clara's lavish dining engagements at the city's most exclusive establishments. This promises to be an entertaining endeavor. I commence with the most subtle financial adjustments, the kind of alterations that, while unlikely to trigger immediate alarms, will undoubtedly provoke some fascinating discussions come Monday morning. The automated payment system responsible for the firm's recurring monthly expenditures, office lease, utilities, cleaning services, coffee suppliers, receives a minor recalibration. Not a cancellation, mind you, merely a temporary suspension pending account verification protocols. Next on the agenda are vendor payments. That opulent event caterer, responsible for the evening's champagne cascade and delectable caviar, their invoice payment has just been suspended pending a thorough financial assessment. The floral artist who designed those magnificent centerpieces, precisely the same situation. The sound system rental, the photography service, the valet attendants. Every single supplier who contributed to my public mortification has now been relegated to a payment pending status. But my work is far from finished. The true masterpiece lies within the payroll mechanism. All those highly skilled attorneys Clara and Victor lured away from rival establishments, the ones boasting substantial signing incentives and six-figure salaries, coupled with an attitude as sharp as broken glass. Their direct deposit particulars have just encountered a minor operational anomaly that necessitates manual rectification. Nothing permanent, you understand. Merely a fleeting snag that might render their monthly mortgage disbursements considerably more stimulating. I recline in my chair, taking another draught of my whiskey, relishing the smooth warmth as much as the elegant simplicity of my current endeavor. This is not some boisterous corporate invasion characterized by aggressive acquisitions and vociferous board deliberations. This is surgical precision, the kind of understated dismantling that transpires within spreadsheets and database queries while the intended targets slumber peacefully in their abodes. However, the ultimate act of retribution is yet to unfold. I navigate to the investment management sector of the portal, where the veritable crown jewel of my financial architecture patiently awaits. My silent partner withdrawal stipulation. It resides discreetly within subsection 7.3 of the Corporate Partnership Agreement. The section Clara's legal counsel likely glossed over, deeming it mere standard boilerplate. What it unequivocally states in meticulously precise legal phrasing is that any partner who provided in excess of 75% of the firm's initial capitalization possesses the entitlement to immediate asset reclamation in the event of a substantial infringement upon fiduciary responsibilities or a dissolution of partnership trust. $20 million, as disclosed in Clara's public announcement of her divorce at the firm's inaugural celebration. Victor's dismissive smirk as he observed me being presented with those documents. I would contend that those occurrences more than adequately qualify as a material breach of virtually every principle. I proceed through the withdrawal procedure, each subsequent screen compelling me to affirm that, yes, I genuinely intend to proceed, and yes, I comprehend the ramifications, and yes, I am unequivocally certain. The system is meticulously designed to encourage second thoughts, to provide numerous opportunities to retract from what it recognizes as a financially catastrophic decision. But Marcus Hale does not waver. Not when he has been manipulated, not when he has been demeaned, and most certainly not when he possesses 20 million compelling justifications for making his position unequivocally clear. The final screen is a paragon of unadorned elegance. Withdrawal requests have been successfully submitted. Funds will be dispersed within 24 to 48 business hours, pending final documentation verification. Beneath that, a figure that causes my heart to momentarily cease its rhythm. $20 million. $20 million poised to vanish from Hale and Winter's limited liability partnership accounts, much like morning dew evaporating under the summer sun. I initiate the submission and lean back to observe the digital machinery commence its operation. Somewhere within the labyrinthine depths of the banking system's servers, electronic signals are already in motion, initiating the sequence that will transform Clara's ambitious venture from a formidable startup into a monumentally costly collection of legal parchments. The exquisite nature of this entire operation lies in its timing. It is Saturday evening or Sunday morning. Technically, the financial institutions will not commence processing any transactions until Monday. This affords Clara and Victor approximately 40 hours to revel in their triumph before they discover the true essence of Marcus Hale's interpretation of a marital dissolution settlement. I pour myself another measure of that distinguished Macallan and approach the expansive floor-to-ceiling windows that offer an unobstructed vista of Central Park. The metropolis unfolds beneath me like an intricate circuit board, a tapestry of shimmering lights and clandestine interconnections. Somewhere out there, Clara is likely experiencing the slumber of the victorious, envisioning her new existence as New York's preeminent legal luminary. What she remains unaware of is the fundamental truth. One cannot construct a legal dominion upon another's capital and subsequently expect them to simply recede when their utility has been exhausted. One cannot publicly humiliate Marcus Hale before a significant contingent of the city's influential figures and anticipate an absence of repercussions. They orchestrated a spectacle at that soiree, a dramatic unraveling they could dissect over their country club luncheons. What they are presently receiving, however, is something far more devastating. A silent tempest poised to dismantle their meticulously crafted world with the ferocity of a Category 5 hurricane. The most delightful aspect is that they will remain utterly oblivious until it is irrevocably too late. I raise my glass in salute to the sleeping metropolis and offer a faint smile. Monday morning is destined to be exceptionally, profoundly engaging. Monday morning descends upon New York City with the force of an oncoming freight train, and here I am, seated in my kitchen, savoring Colombian coffee that commands a per-pound price exceeding most individuals' monthly grocery expenditure. I witness the sunrise as it imbues the sky with hues of orange and rose. It is shaping up to be a magnificent day, the kind that instills a profound sense of gratitude for life and an overwhelming thrill at being Marcus Hale. My mobile device has been vibrating incessantly since approximately 6:30 in the morning, illuminating like a festive holiday tree with incoming calls, text messages, and voicemails. The caller identification display reads as a veritable who's who of individuals who suddenly require my immediate attention with utmost urgency. Clara, 47 missed calls and counting. Victor Cross, 12 calls, each likely more fraught with desperation than the preceding one, and a procession of board members, investors, and suppliers whose names I recognize from the extravagantly priced gala they hosted last Saturday evening. I disregard every single one of them. There exists a profound satisfaction in possessing information that others desperately covet while maintaining an absolute impenetrable silence. It is akin to being the sole individual armed with an umbrella during a torrential downpour. You possess the discretion to determine who remains dry and who is thoroughly drenched. The voice of my doorman crackles through the intercom precisely at 10 o'clock in the morning, right on schedule. "Sir," it announces, "there is a young lady here from the law firm who states it is urgent. Her name is Sophie. Something." Sophie Lang, Clara's personal assistant, a recent college graduate likely earning $30,000 annually for tasks ranging from fetching coffee to managing the schedules of individuals who believe they are reshaping the world. The poor girl probably has no inkling that she is about to become a pawn in the most high-stakes game of chess New York has witnessed all year. "Send her up, Frank," I instruct the intercom, then resume my position in my leather chair, my coffee mug in hand, and the morning edition of the Wall Street Journal before me. Nothing quite compares to perusing the financial misfortunes of others while orchestrating one's own masterwork. The knock at my door arrives precisely 3 minutes later. Soft, tentative, the sort of rap that conveys a silent plea. "Please do not harm the messenger." I deliberately delay my response, allowing her to deliberate in the hallway for a brief interval, While I conclude an article, I am engrossed in concerning market volatility within emerging technology sectors. Upon finally opening the door, Sophie Lang presents an appearance suggesting she has recently emerged from a corporate nightmare blender. Her typically impeccable blonde coiffure is haphazardly secured in a messy bun. Her makeup is smudged, as if she has either been weeping or rubbing her eyes, and she clutches a manila folder to her chest as if it were a life raft. "Mr. Hale," she utters, her voice exhibiting a discernible tremor. "Thank you for agreeing to see me. I understand this is irregular." "Sophie," I acknowledge. I step aside, gesturing for her to enter. "Clara's assistant, coffee. You appear to be in need of some." She shakes her head with haste, too agitated to remain still. "I cannot remain for long. The firm, there's a situation, a significant one." I pour myself a fresh cup and lean against the kitchen counter, observing her with a detached interest akin to that one might afford a particularly captivating street performer. "Oh? What sort of situation?" Everything is collapsing. The words tumble from her like water breaching a breached dam. "The payroll system crashed this morning. No one was compensated. The vendors are calling incessantly, stating their payments were declined. The catering company is threatening legal action over the party expenditures. Even the coffee service has been suspended. Do you have any conception of how lawyers function without coffee, Mr. Hale?" I take a slow sip from my mug and emit a thoughtful sound. "That sounds rather complex." "The investors are incensed," she continues, pacing the length of my entryway like a creature confined to a cage. "Judge Winters has been calling hourly, demanding explanations. Victor has sequestered himself in his office and refuses to emerge. And Clara..." She ceases her pacing and regards me with eyes that are clearly on the verge of tears. "Clara claims it's merely a technical malfunction, some sort of banking error that will be rectified by the close of business today." "And what is your personal assessment, Sophie?" She bites her lower lip, evidently grappling with the decision of whether to voice her true sentiments to the man who has just been publicly repudiated by her employer. "I believe," she states cautiously, "that computer malfunctions do not typically involve $20 million vanishing from corporate accounts." "An astute observation," I remark. "A smart young woman indeed, wiser than her employer." "In any event," I continue, setting down my coffee mug and proceeding towards my desk, "I am not a financial expert. However, that does indeed sound like more than a mere glitch." I pull open the uppermost drawer and retrieve a cream-colored envelope, the kind of premium stationery that conveys an air of significant business without uttering a single word. Within are 3 sheets of legal paper, meticulously inscribed in my attorney's precise handwriting. Terms and stipulations that Clara will find utterly reprehensible, yet will be compelled to acknowledge. "I require you to deliver this to Clara," I state, handing Sophie the envelope directly. "Do not entrust it to Victor. Do not leave it with the receptionist. Do not place it in her electronic inbox. Present it to Clara personally and inform her that she has precisely 24 hours to respond." Sophie accepts the envelope as though it might detonate in her grasp. "What does it contain?" "A pathway out of this predicament," I state simply. "The sole pathway, in fact." Her gaze scrutinizes my countenance, likely searching for any indication of leniency, compassion, or basic human decency. What she encounters, however, is the cold, calculating regard of a man who has concluded his games. "Mr. Hale," she murmurs softly, "is this pertaining to the divorce? Because if it is, perhaps we could... Sophie, I interject, my tone gentle yet firm. This is not about the divorce. This is about business. $20 million worth of business that your employers appear to have forgotten belongs to someone. She nods slowly, finally grasping that she is not merely conveying a message. She is bearing the terms of surrender from the victorious party to the vanquished. 24 hours, I reiterate, not a moment longer. And Sophie, ensure Clara comprehends that this is the only proposal she will receive. The subsequent discussion will be considerably less amicable. After her departure, I return to my kitchen window and gaze out at the cityscape below. Somewhere within a towering glass edifice on Madison Avenue, Clara is likely experiencing the most calamitous Monday of her professional existence. The relentless barrage of telephone calls, the frantic emergency meetings, the dawning realization that her esteemed firm is devolving into a nightmare with alarming rapidity, far exceeding her capacity for damage control. I pour myself another measure of coffee and consult my mobile device. 53 missed calls now, augmented by a text message from Victor that simply reads, "Call me now," in all capital letters. I delete the message without a second perusal and place my phone on silent mode. The exceptional aspect of being Marcus Hale is that when you hold all the cards, you dictate the conclusion of the game. And this particular game has only just commenced. 24 hours, Clara. The clock is ticking. Friday morning arrives with the subtlety of a demolition crew's detonation. And here I stand before my bathroom mirror at 7:30 in the morning, adjusting a tie that represents more than most individuals' monthly rent, while mentally preparing for what promises to be the most gratifying business engagement of my entire career. Today's attire can be described as corporate executioner chic, a charcoal Tom Ford suit tailored to perfection as if it were organically fused to my physique. Italian leather footwear that could arguably finance a modest automobile, and a smile that would elicit envy from a predator. When you are on the precipice of entering a room populated by legal professionals who mistakenly believe they have been engaging in chess, while you have been engaged in four-dimensional strategy, presentation is paramount. The journey to Hale & Winters LLP transpires in precisely 14 minutes amidst Manhattan's notorious traffic, affording me just adequate time to review my notes and savor the exquisite irony of entering a building whose lease I personally guaranteed. The lobby retains its original appearance from when Clara first presented the premises to me 2 years ago, adorned with marble and brass, exuding an aspirational grandeur intended to impress clients into agreeing to premium fees. What has transformed, however, is the ambiance. In lieu of the confident hum of legal eagles circling their prey, a palpable tension pervades the atmosphere, so thick one could sever it with a subpoena. The receptionist, a young woman whose name I have never bothered to ascertain, regards me with eyes so wide they suggest an acute awareness of my presence and its purpose. "Mr. Hale," she stamens, They are awaiting you in the conference room." Naturally, they are. When Marcus Hale schedules a 9:00 meeting, intelligent individuals arrive punctually, and apprehensive individuals arrive even earlier. The elevator ascent to the 42nd floor grants me 30 seconds to appreciate the panoramic vista of Manhattan unfurling below, akin to a game board I am poised to reconfigure. As the doors glide open, I can discern voices emanating from beyond the conference room's glass partitions, urgent whispers, and what sounds like an individual rehearsing damage control talking points. I push through the mahogany doors at precisely 9 o'clock, recognizing that punctuality is merely another manifestation of power, and survey the devastation that was once Clara's aspirational collective. The conference room, which previously hosted champagne toasts and celebrations of victory, now resembles a command center staffed by individuals who have already conceded defeat. Elaine Porter, the senior counsel whom Clara enticed from a prestigious legal firm with promises of partnership and prominence, is seated at the far extremity of the table, fixated on her coffee cup, as if it might contain answers to queries she hesitates to articulate. Two junior associates, whose names have similarly eluded my memory, are clustered near the window, likely engaged in calculating the velocity at which they can update their professional profiles and initiate job applications. The firm's accountant, a diminutive and perpetually anxious man who appears to perpetually apologize for his existence, has spreadsheets spread before him, resembling tea leaves from which he attempts to divine signs of financial salvation. And then there is Clara, seated at the head of the table in the identical chair where she once presided over partner meetings, her demeanor exuding the frazzled desperation characteristic of attempting to salvage something intrinsically determined to disintegrate. However, the most salient detail within the entire assembly is the vacant chair where Victor Cross ought to be seated. "Where is your partner?" I inquire, assuming the seat directly opposite Clara with a nonchalant confidence that conveys, "I possess a greater claim to this space than anyone else present." "Victor is indisposed," Clara states carefully. "He has been contending with certain personal matters since Monday." Personal matters. A diplomatic euphemism for a nervous collapse, precipitated by the sudden realization that he has been engaged in impropriety with another man's wife while squandering another man's resources. The prevailing gossip within legal circles suggests that Victor has not ventured beyond his residence since Tuesday, subsisting on takeout Chinese cuisine and, I presume, a relentless regimen of panic attacks. "Well," I declare, opening my briefcase and extracting a folder of considerable thickness, "I suppose we shall proceed without him." I arrange the documents across the mahogany table with the practiced ease of a dealer shuffling cards. Each page represents another detrimental element in the demise of Clara's legal empire: partnership dissolution agreements, asset recovery forms, employment termination notices, and the pièce de résistance, a restructuring proposal that would elicit tears of admiration from Gordon Gekko himself. "As you are all aware," I commence, addressing the room with a calm authority derived from possessing all the leverage, "Hale and Winters LLP is currently experiencing what one might charitably describe as a cash flow predicament." Elaine Porter finally lifts her gaze from her coffee cup. "Mr. Hale, if this pertains to the withdrawal of your investment, I am confident we can arrange some form of payment schedule." "This is not about payment schedules, Elaine," I retort. "This is about fundamental restructuring." I slide a copy of my terms across the table to each individual present. These constitute my prerequisites for the continued operation of this firm. The ensuing silence is of the variety one encounters in emergency rooms just prior to the medical professionals delivering dire prognoses. Everyone is reading, but no one is speaking, likely because they are collectively attempting to comprehend the magnitude of the document before them. "You desire Clara to relinquish her position as managing partner?" Elaine's voice emerges as little more than a whisper. I require Clara to resign from any operational capacity within this firm, I clarify. She may retain a position as counsel, but she will be devoid of decision-making authority, client interaction, and access to firm finances. And Victor? Inquires one of the junior associates. Victor Cross is terminated immediately, without severance, without references, and subject to a non-compete clause that will preclude him from practicing law in New York for the subsequent 5 years. Clara finally speaks, her voice hollow. Marcus, you are dismantling everything we have constructed. Everything I constructed, I correct her gently. While you were engaged in the pretense of running a law firm, I was actively managing a business, the business that sustained this establishment for 2 years, while you and Victor were indulging in domestic theatrics with my capital. I rise and proceed to the window, my gaze fixed upon the cityscape that Clara once envisioned conquering. My $20 million will be recompensed in structured installments over the ensuing 10 years with accrued interest. I will assume 2 permanent seats on the board, including the position of Director of Financial Oversight, vested with veto power over any expenditure exceeding $10,000. That essentially constitutes a hostile takeover, Elaine stammers. No. I turn back to face the room, and for the first time since this entire affair commenced, I allow them to witness the full extent of my enjoyment in observing their diminutive empire crumble. A hostile takeover is when an entity appropriates your company. This is what transpires when you bite the hand that nourishes you and subsequently discover it possesses exceedingly sharp incisors. Clara's hands are trembling as she picks up the pen I have placed before her. If I sign this, I will be nothing more than an employee within my own firm. Your firm? I walk back to the table and lean down until my face is level with hers. Clara, this ceased being your firm the moment you elected to present me with divorce papers at a celebration for which I bore the expense. What you are presently confronting is the Marcus Hale equivalent of a settlement proposal. She stares at the signature line for what feels like an eternity, undoubtedly contemplating all available alternatives. Engage in protracted legal combat with attorneys she cannot afford. Attempt to reestablish herself elsewhere with a reputation irrevocably tarnished. Declare bankruptcy and witness the dissipation of 20 years of her legal career. When she finally inscribes her name, the pen scratches across the paper with an unnerving resonance, akin to fingernails on a chalkboard. One by one, the remaining partners affix their signatures to their respective copies. Each inscription marks another step in what history will likely record as the most efficient corporate coup in Manhattan's legal annals. As I am repacking my briefcase, Elaine Porter clears her throat. Mr. Hale, what becomes of the rest of us? You retain your positions, I state simply. You retain your salaries, you retain your benefits. The sole alteration is that this firm will henceforth be administered by an individual who possesses a genuine understanding of business management. I am nearing the exit when Clara's voice halts my progress. Marcus, she utters, her voice barely audible. Was this always the plan? Even from the initial inception? I turn back and regard her one final time. 8 years of marriage, and I had entrusted my entire existence to Clara, my finances, my very heart. I watched her meticulously construct her aspirations upon the bedrock of my financial security, only for her to discard that foundation when it no longer suited her. No, Clara, I conveyed with unvarnished sincerity. The intention was to cherish you, champion your ambitions, and grow old together. But plans invariably shift when individuals make profoundly foolish choices. I gently closed the door behind me, the soft click of final punctuation mark on the ruins of Clara's professional dominion and the nascent stirrings of something entirely novel. Stepping onto the street, I retrieved my mobile device and initiated a call to my financial advisor. Jameson, it's Marcus. Indeed, the outcome was precisely as anticipated. Please commence the necessary documentation for the firm's restructuring. And Jameson, ensure the new letterhead proudly displays Hale Legal Partners. I find it has a rather pleasing resonance. 2 weeks subsequent to my decisive action, which effectively dismantled my wife's legal enterprise from its very foundations, I found myself standing before a strikingly repurposed brownstone in Brooklyn. This building appeared to have weathered more conflicts than a Civil War encampment. Its paint was peeling, the steps leading to the entrance were fractured, and a fire escape jutted out at an angle that surely flouted at least 17 building regulations. Yet there was an undeniable authenticity emanating from this structure, a stark contrast to the opulent marble and mahogany that had become my recent milieu. This, apparently, was the crucible of ingenuity. Phoenix Legal Collective. The very name was enough to elicit uproarious laughter from seasoned corporate attorneys, yet it resonated perfectly with the tenacious spirit that radiated from the edifice like palpable heat. My presence here was prompted by my legal counsel, Patricia Wells, who had alluded to opportunities within nascent legal sectors during our conversation the prior week. Her veiled suggestion, however, was more direct. There's a remarkably driven young legal mind in Brooklyn who's causing the established firms considerable unease. You might want to investigate before someone else capitalizes on her potential. The reception area resembled a space furnished by a collector who frequented flea markets and discount retailers. Mismatched seating arrangements, a coffee table that likely predated most of the staff, and walls adorned with newspaper clippings detailing their victories against corporations vast enough to absorb the entire building with a mere financial transaction. But Marcus Hale had not achieved his current standing by judging appearances. Some of my most lucrative ventures had originated in environments that appeared perilously close to condemnation. Mr. Hale, a voice projected across the space, drawing my attention to a woman who, despite her youthful appearance, exuded a self-assurance that typically takes decades to cultivate. I'm Lydia Torres. Thank you for coming. Lydia Torres embodied the archetype of a Brooklyn legal collective leader. Her dark hair, secured in a no-nonsense ponytail, suggested an individual unconcerned with superficial adornments. Her genes had likely witnessed more courtroom dramas than many attorneys encountered in their entire careers, and her eyes blazed with an intensity reserved for those driven by an unwavering conviction to prove themselves to the world. Miss Torres, I responded, her handshake firm, conveying an unpretentious strength. An interesting operation you have here. She chuckled, a genuine sound that had become a rarity in legal circles. That's certainly one way to describe it. Come, allow me to provide a tour before you decide whether we're visionary geniuses or utterly deranged. The subsequent exploration felt akin to traversing an alternative reality where legal professionals genuinely prioritized principles beyond billable hours and career advancement. The office itself was a hive of activity, with case files overflowing from every available surface and whiteboards meticulously detailing strategic plans that resembled military campaign blueprints. "This is our command center," Lydia announced, indicating a conference room no larger than Clara's former office closet. "We manage approximately 40 cases concurrently: wrongful evictions, immigration advocacy, class action litigation against landlords who neglect basic amenities." In January, I perused a case file from a nearby table: Martinez versus Blackstone Property Management. A family of 5 facing eviction due to their infants crying, which the landlord claimed violated the quiet enjoyment clause of their lease. This was precisely the kind of case that major firms would resolve discreetly for a nominal sum. However, this family was prepared to contest it all the way to the appellate court. "What is your success rate?" I inquired, genuinely intrigued. "It depends on how one defines success," Lydia responded, leading me into another room where 3 individuals, appearing barely of voting age, were engrossed in a computer screen. "If you mean how often do we achieve our clients' precise objectives, it's around 60%. If you mean how often do we prevent individuals from being exploited by corporations with virtually limitless legal resources, that figure approaches 90%. We paused before a bulletin board festooned with handwritten thank you notes, newspaper clippings, and a child's drawing, presumably from a family who had successfully averted eviction thanks to the team's efforts. Such decorations were an anomaly at Hale Legal Partners, where success was quantified by billable hours and profit distribution. "Mr. Hale," Lydia stated, her demeanor shifting to one of earnest gravity, "and for the first time since my arrival, I must be entirely candid. We are financially depleted, not experiencing temporary cash flow issues or awaiting payments, but genuinely struggling to choose between rent and employee health care coverage." "I appreciate your candor," I acknowledged. "In my experience, individuals who readily admit to being on the brink are often those most deserving of assistance." "How depleted are we talking?" I pressed. "We have approximately 6 weeks of operational capital remaining, assuming no one falls ill, and the heating system holds out until spring. Our most significant corporate litigation recently concluded for a fraction of our projected settlement. Furthermore, the city has reduced funding for legal aid initiatives by 30%. She guided me to her office, a confined space with a single window and a library's worth of legal texts. Her desk was a chaotic landscape of financial statements, painting a vivid picture of an organization sustained by sheer passion and copious amounts of coffee. "We could pursue corporate clients," she continued, settling into a chair that seemed to have originated from a 1970s garage sale. "Charge premium rates for routine contract work, perhaps offer regulatory compliance services to tech startups. However, that deviates from our fundamental purpose." "And what is that purpose?" I asked, sensing an answer far removed from achieving partnership by 30 or acquiring a Hamptons estate. "Because the system is fundamentally unfair," she stated plainly. "Corporate attorneys earn more in a month than many individuals earn in a year, while families face displacement due to their inability to afford legal counsel. Immigration courts have a 97% conviction rate for self-represented individuals, contrasted with a 60% acquittal rate when they are competently represented." She retrieved a folder, spreading its contents across her desk. "We are not seeking personal enrichment, Mr. Hale. Our objective is to rebalance the scales, however slightly, to ensure that financial standing is not the sole determinant of justice." I examined the financial projections, the case files, and the heartfelt testimonials. A realization dawned upon me. one I hadn't anticipated. This was not merely another investment opportunity or a means to diversify my assets. This was the antithesis of Clara's approach. This was what Clara's firm should have been, had she prioritized the practice of law over its performative display. "What would you do with $10 million?" I inquired. Lydia's eyes widened as if I had proposed a moon landing. $10 million? Are you serious? Completely serious. $10 million in seed capital in exchange for 40% equity and a board seat. What would you construct with it? She didn't hesitate, a testament to her having envisioned this scenario long before my arrival. We would expand to all 5 boroughs, recruit 20 additional attorneys, establish a comprehensive training program for aspiring public interest lawyers who cannot afford unpaid internships, create a legal clinic in every underserved neighborhood, providing genuine assistance rather than mere paperwork. And we would fundamentally alter the landscape, ensuring that possessing a corporate legal team does not automatically guarantee victory. We would level the playing field so that justice is accessible to all, not just those who can afford it. I produced my checkbook, a tangible artifact I still carried for moments of profound significance, and inscribed a figure that brought tears to Lydia's eyes. $10 million, not a loan laden with complex stipulations, nor an investment contingent on specific returns. Simply initial funding for an individual committed to the righteous cause and possessing the courage to pursue it. "Mr. Hale," she whispered, her gaze fixed on the check as if it might vanish. "You have just saved us. You have preserved everything we are striving to build." "No," I corrected her, rising and extending my hand once more. "You have saved me." In my preoccupation with corporate maneuvering, I had forgotten the profound satisfaction of investing in endeavors that genuinely hold meaning. As I walked toward my vehicle, I dialed Patricia Wells. "Patricia, it's Marcus. Regarding that emerging legal market opportunity you mentioned, yes, I have just extended a check for $10 million. And Patricia, this is no longer about retribution. This is about forging something authentic." For the first time since this entire ordeal commenced, my thoughts were not consumed by Clara, Victor, or the smoldering remnants of Hale and Winters. My focus was on the horizon, on what lay ahead, a prospect infinitely more reassuring than dwelling on the past. 3 weeks after I had essentially embraced a burgeoning legal collective in Brooklyn, much like a paternalistic benefactor, Clara contacted me with a proposal as appealing as a root canal administered by an intoxicated dentist. She proposed a meeting over coffee to discuss our public narrative, a euphemism for crafting a spin that would mitigate the fallout of her spectacular failure. She selected Café Orpheus, an establishment on the Upper West Side characterized by its deliberate neutrality, a common haunt for divorcing couples negotiating custody and business partners dissecting the carcasses of their failed ventures. It was the kind of place that offered $15 avocado toast and maintained a level of ambient noise conducive to discreet yet intense conversations. I arrived precisely on time, a tactical maneuver in psychological warfare, to find Clara already ensconced at a corner table, her laptop open, and a legal pad filled with what appeared to be talking points. She wore a navy blue business suit exuding an air of professional competence, her makeup meticulously applied to conceal the toll her empire's collapse had taken on her sleep. "Marcus," she greeted me as I took my seat, her voice employing that measured tone lawyers adopt when attempting to appear reasonable while making audacious demands. "Thank you for coming. I understand this is a complex situation." I ordered a black coffee from a server who appeared young enough to be my daughter, then settled back, exuding the placid confidence of someone holding all the winning cards in a game their opponent had yet to comprehend. So I began, stirring cream into my coffee with the deliberate slowness of a man with an abundance of time and nowhere else to be. "What is this about, Clara?" She slid her laptop across the table, an action reminiscent of presenting evidence in a high-stakes trial. The screen displayed a draft press release, meticulously formatted with the polished veneer of a Fortune 500 company's crisis management statement. The headline proclaimed, "Hale Legal Partners announces leadership transition." As I began to read, my appreciation for the creative application of the English language expanded exponentially with each sentence. According to this masterpiece of corporate fiction, Clara was relinquishing her operational responsibilities to focus on strategic client relationships. My acquisition of controlling interest in the firm was artfully depicted as a planned transition to enhance operational efficiency. Victor Cross's complete omission was attributed to his pursuit of new opportunities in the private sector. It was akin to reading a children's story meticulously crafted from SEC filings. "This is interesting," I remarked after finishing the document, a process that took approximately 3 minutes, given its composition of buzzwords and corporate jargon. "Remarkably creative." Clara leaned forward, her expression radiating a hopeful anticipation that suggested she genuinely believed I might be swayed. I collaborated with our communications consultant to formulate a statement that safeguards everyone's reputation while articulating the transition in terms understandable to the legal community. Our communications consultant, I repeated, drawing out the words. "You mean the same consultant who billed my company $20,000 to orchestrate a launch party where you publicly declared our divorce?" A faint flush crept across her cheeks, but she pressed on, displaying the tenacity of a lawyer committed to a flawed defense. "Marcus, we both have reputations to uphold. This statement enables us to move forward without undue damage to our professional standing." I closed the laptop and slid it back. "Clara, this reads like a politician's statement following an embezzlement scandal. It's 90% fluff, 10% ostentatious vocabulary. It's a professional statement that is, in essence, a fabrication." I interrupted her, my tone gentle yet firm. "Every single sentence in that document is designed to obscure the truth, not to illuminate it. You wish to safeguard our reputations? Let us begin by disseminating the actual events." She stared at me as if I had proposed a full-page advertisement in the New York Times confessing to war crimes. "You want me to tell the truth? The actual unvarnished truth? A novel concept, I know, but yes, that is precisely what I expect." For the subsequent 2 hours, we remained at the cafe, meticulously dissecting Clara's fabricated narrative and reconstructing it into something bearing a semblance of factual reporting. It was akin to performing delicate surgery on a piece of prose, excising the corporate jargon and media training until only the raw, unadulterated truth remained, likely more devastating than any invention of my own. Clara's initial draft remained largely unsatisfactory, but it was a step in the correct direction. Instead of stepping back from operational duties, she wrote, resigning from leadership positions. Instead of planned transition, she acknowledged financial restructuring following the withdrawal of significant investment. Yet it was still insufficient. "Try again," I instructed, returning her laptop after deleting a substantial portion of her text. "This time, imagine you are explaining it to your father." Judge Winters does not engage with corporate platitudes, Clara. He demands facts. The mention of her father struck her like a physical blow. Judge Robert Winters represented the old guard of the judiciary, a man who believed in the precise meaning of words. He was also the kind of father who instilled in his daughter the conviction that integrity superseded appearances, a principle that rendered Clara's current predicament all the more poignant. She resumed typing, and the words that flowed were sharper, more precise, and profoundly honest. Forsaking passive constructions and corporate euphemisms, she began to assume accountability for the decisions that had precipitated the current crisis. Marcus Hale provided the financial bedrock upon which Hale and Winters LLP was established, she wrote. My personal choices jeopardized that investment and irrevocably damaged the professional relationship that formed the firm's foundation. It was an improvement, but still not the complete picture. And Victor? I prompted. She paused, her gaze fixed on the screen for a prolonged moment. What about him? I pressed gently. Are you going to acknowledge that you were involved in an affair with your business partner while utilizing your husband's financial resources to sustain both your firm and your relationship? Or shall we perpetuate the fiction that this is irrelevant to the narrative? The question hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. Clara's fingers hovered over the keyboard, no doubt contemplating the most palatable phrasing for this particular truth, a phrasing that might salvage what remained of her professional standing. I made personal decisions that compromised my professional judgment, she finally typed. Those decisions led to actions that were inequitable to my investors and detrimental to the firm's financial stability. It remained corporate speak, but it was a form of corporate speak that acknowledged reality rather than attempting to erase it. We dedicated another hour to refining the language, stripping away the last vestiges of spin and public relations, maneuvering until the resulting statement possessed an undeniable authenticity. By the conclusion of our session, Clara's statement conveyed an understanding of the distinction between accepting responsibility and managing public perception. The final version included an acknowledgement of my funding of the firm's entire operation, an admission that her personal choices had precipitated the financial crisis, and a clear declaration of her resignation from all leadership roles to facilitate proper restructuring under new management. This will annihilate my reputation, she declared, rereading the final draft. Your reputation was irrevocably damaged the moment you chose to publicly humiliate the man who financed your entire enterprise, I responded. This merely affirms what everyone already understands. She stared at the screen for another extended period, likely weighing the cost of honesty against the price of continued pretense. Then, without ceremony or dramatic pronouncements, she scheduled the statement for release on the firm's website and social media channels the following morning at 9 o'clock. There, she stated, closing the laptop with a finality that echoed the closing of a tomb. The truth as requested, the truth as mandated. This should have been your initial course of action, not your final recourse, I corrected her. As I prepared to depart, Clara reached across the table, her hand briefly touching mine. Marcus, for what it's worth, I never intended for it to conclude this way. I understand, I replied honestly. However, desiring something and actively working towards it are fundamentally different pursuits. You wished for the proverbial cake and the means to consume it. I desired a partner, a wife who recognized that marriage is intended as a collaborative venture, not a mere commercial transaction. Outside the cafe, I retrieved my phone and contacted Patricia Wells. Patricia, it's Marcus. Clara will be releasing a statement tomorrow morning. Yes, it is truthful. No, she will not welcome the public's reaction. And Patricia, please ensure our media relations team is prepared to address inquiries. Tomorrow promises to be eventful. Somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I could already envision the phones ringing incessantly at law firms across Manhattan as the legal community's grapevine processed the news that Clara Winters Hale had openly admitted to the self-destruction of her own firm due to egregious professional misconduct. Tomorrow morning, the truth would finally see the light of day. And after months spent navigating the meticulously constructed fantasy of Clara's creation, this felt like a victory in itself. You know what's fascinating about the truth? It propagates with greater speed than gossip and exerts a more forceful impact than a train laden with legal claims. Clara's statement went live precisely at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. By 9:15, my phone was buzzing with the frantic energy of an agitated hornet's nest, flooded with calls from journalists, attorneys, and likely a significant portion of Manhattan's legal establishment, all suddenly eager to learn everything about Marcus Hale. I'm seated in my urban dwelling, savoring my second cup of rich Colombian coffee as the early morning sun begins to adorn Central Park with hues of gold and promise. It's precisely at this moment that the initial deluge of calls commences. First, Legal Times chimes in, followed by Above the Law, and then a publication named Manhattan Law Weekly, which to my knowledge wasn't in existence yesterday, but apparently holds strong convictions regarding corporate restructuring within smaller specialized firms. The most satisfying aspect, I don't entertain a single one of them. Instead, I refill my coffee cup and prepare to observe the digital conflagration that erupts across social media, akin to spilled gasoline meeting a spark. LinkedIn becomes a storm of fervent opinions from legal professionals eager to broadcast their foresight. Twitter transforms into a battleground, a stark division between those who believe Clara received her just deserts and those who perceive me as some sort of corporate villain for extricating my own capital from an enterprise led by individuals who prove themselves untrustworthy. By midday, the narrative has infiltrated the front page of the New York Law Journal, emblazoned with a headline proclaiming, "Power Couples, Public Divorce Exposes Law Firm Financial Crisis." The article features purported insights from confidential sources who possess an unnervingly detailed grasp of my personal finances and an equally robust assessment of my character. However, for someone in my position, Marcus Hale, the situation offers a peculiar kind of amusement. When the ultimate victory has already been secured, observing the ensuing skirmish over tactical maneuvers becomes mere entertainment. The true excitement begins around 2 in the afternoon, when my electronic mailbox starts to overflow with prospects that would have seemed utterly fantastical a mere 6 months prior. Columbia Law School extends an invitation for me to deliver a guest lecture on entrepreneurial finance within the context of legal startups. The New York State Bar Association inquires about my potential interest in joining their ethics committee, a proposition that strikes me as either deeply ironic or remarkably fitting, depending on one's perspective. 3 distinct charitable organizations express a desire to explore avenues for collaboration, and a representative from the mayor's office seeks my consideration for an advisory board focused on small business development. It's akin to witnessing one's reputation being meticulously reassembled in real time, with the added benefit that this reconstruction is now anchored in authenticity rather than a facade of carefully curated public relations. The most intriguing summons arrives from Dr. Eleanor Hartwell at NYU's Business School, who wishes to ascertain my willingness to contribute to a case study examining financial accountability in professional services partnerships. Evidently, my systematic dismantling of Clara's professional domain is being presented as a paradigm for safeguarding investment interests when personal relationships deteriorate. I am, in essence, becoming a celebrated figure, though this time the acclaim stems from justifiable reasons. Around 4 p.m, I decide to seek refuge from the burgeoning chaos and embark on a stroll through Central Park. It's one of those quintessential October afternoons when the foliage begins its vibrant transformation and the air carries a crispness that evokes a profound appreciation for existence in the metropolis. I meander past the Shakespeare Garden, my thoughts uncomplicated, revolving around the simple decision of where to dine that evening, when my phone vibrates with a text from Patricia Wells. Victor Cross just posted on LinkedIn. You should probably see this. I locate a vacant bench, settle in, and access Victor's profile. It now showcases an extensive post that reads like a confessional, a lament penned by someone who apparently acquired their creative writing skills from corporate legal documentation. He announces a period of introspection to reevaluate his professional trajectory and explore avenues beyond the conventional legal sphere. This is the kind of circumlocution employed by those who find themselves unemployed but too proud to acknowledge it. The subsequent commentary is a brutal free-for-all, filled with former associates offering insincere condolences while, no doubt simultaneously updating their contact lists to expunge his details. It's the professional equivalent of being meticulously dismantled. I might have harbored a modicum of sympathy for him had he not spent the preceding 2 years engaging in an affair with my wife while squandering my fortune. Upon my return home, 17 voicemail messages await my attention, including one from Judge Robert Winters, a man of few words but considerable gravitas, simply stating, "Marcus, call me when you get a chance. We should talk." Clara's father has always possessed a no-nonsense demeanor, the kind of individual who eschews pleasantries when serious matters require discussion. I reciprocate his call immediately. To disregard Judge Winters is to invite a professional consequence that can linger indefinitely. "Marcus," he answers on the first ring, "I read Clara's statement. I also reviewed the coverage in the legal press. Are you doing okay?" It is a remarkably straightforward question, yet emanating from him, it carries the palpable weight of genuine concern. Judge Winters has witnessed his daughter's self-inflicted marital and professional ruin, and he is inquiring about my well-being. "I'm better than I have been in years, Judge," I reply with unvarnished honesty. "Thank you for asking." "Good, that's good." A brief silence ensues, during which I sense him carefully selecting his words. "Marcus, I want you to know that Clara's actions, the manner in which she navigated this situation, that is not how I raised her. That is not the person I believed her to be." "People evolve, Judge," I interject. "Sometimes they reveal their true nature, a nature they've possessed all along." "Perhaps so," he concedes, "but I want you to be aware that you handle this with more integrity than most men would have exhibited. You possess the capacity to utterly ruin her, and you chose not to." After concluding the call, I recognized the accuracy of Judge Winters' observation. I possessed the power to comprehensively dismantle Clara's career, to ensure she would never again practice law. I could have transformed her into a cautionary tale for law students to dissect for decades to come. Instead, I afforded her an opportunity to rebuild, albeit on a significantly reduced scale and with a far more lucid comprehension of the world's realities. Perhaps this reflects a more commendable aspect of my character than I previously recognized, or more likely, it signifies that I have learned to distinguish between the pursuit of justice and the impulse for retribution. That evening, as I prepare for dinner, my doorman informs me of an unexpected visitor, Dr. Camille Rhodes from Columbia Law School. He announces her arrival with polite formality, stating she has an appointment. While I don't recall scheduling any such engagement, the name registers with a flicker of familiarity. It takes me a moment to place her. She is the ethics professor whose commentary on fiduciary responsibilities and professional partnerships appeared in one of the articles concerning Clara's public statement. Dr. Camille Rhodes emerges as a woman in her early 40s, possessing a keen intellect that is palpable in every aspect of her demeanor, from the firmness of her handshake to the discerning gaze with which she surveys my apartment, as if meticulously cataloging details for future analysis. She is attired in casual jeans and a Columbia sweatshirt, suggesting a departure from formal business protocol. "Mr. Hale," she begins, gracefully occupying the chair opposite my couch as if it were her designated seat. "I hope you don't mind the unscheduled intrusion. I happen to be in the vicinity and have been following your situation with considerable interest." "Academic interest?" I inquire, pouring 2 glasses of wine, an instinct driven by the premonition that this conversation might necessitate a libation. "Both professional and personal," she admits. "Your strategic disentanglement from Hale and Winters, the precise architecture of your withdrawal, the legal instruments you employed to safeguard your investment. It's nothing short of brilliant. Ethically unimpeachable, legally sound, and more elegantly executed than anything I've encountered in my 2 decades of studying corporate accountability. Our discussion unfolds for a period of 3 hours, encompassing a spectrum of topics from business ethics to the future trajectory of legal education. As she prepares to depart, 2 realizations crystallize. Firstly, that I haven't engaged in such intellectually stimulating dialogue since prior to my marriage to Clara. Secondly, that Dr. Camille Rhodes possesses a smile that sparks an inherent desire to uncover the source of her mirth. While tidying the wine glasses, I find myself smiling for no discernible reason other than the profound sense that, for the first time in many years, the future appears not as an ordeal to be endured, but as a horizon brimming with potential. Tomorrow, I commence teaching a seminar at Columbia on entrepreneurial finance. Next week, I am scheduled to confer with the Phoenix legal team regarding their expansion strategies. And at some point in the near future, I may very well extend an invitation to Dr. Camille Rhodes to continue our conversation over dinner. The conflict with Clara has concluded, and I have emerged victorious. More significantly, however, I am finally poised to commence the construction of something entirely new. 6 months have elapsed since the spectacular dissolution of what was once Clara's legal empire. I am presently situated in my new residence on the Upper West Side, diligently evaluating assignments from my Columbia Law School seminar on entrepreneurial finance when a FedEx courier arrives bearing a package that is poised to bring a definitive close to the Marcus Hale narrative of retribution. This apartment is more modest than my previous dwelling. Gone are the marble countertops and the floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Central Park. Yet it is bathed in sunlight, genuine, unadulterated sunlight that streams through conventionally sized windows, imbuing everything with a warmth and vitality that contrasts sharply with the sterile, museum-like ambiance of my former abode, designed to impress individuals I never truly held in high regard. The FedEx envelope is inscribed with handwriting I recognize instantly, despite the passage of months since I last encountered Clara's distinctive cursive. There is no return address, but the postmark from Portland provides all the necessary context, indicating the considerable distance she has traveled from the Manhattan legal scene she once aspired to dominate. I pour myself a cup of coffee, ordinary coffee this time, eschewing the prohibitively expensive Colombian blend I once favored under the misguided assumption that exorbitant cost equated to superior quality. I then settle into a comfortable armchair procured from a furniture store in Queens, a deliberate alternative to the ostentatious showrooms where one is expected to pay a premium for the condescending attentions of interior designers. The letter enclosed is penned on plain white stationery, the kind readily available at any drugstore, and extends to just a single page. However, brevity can often encapsulate the entirety of a message. Marcus, it begins, I relocated to Portland 3 months ago. I suspect this revelation will not come as a surprise to you. Within the New York legal community, it is widely acknowledged that Clara Winters Hale is considered persona non grata east of the Hudson River. I am presently employed at a nonprofit clinic, assisting individuals who lack the financial resources for legal representation with immigration matters and housing disputes. The remuneration is meager. My office is situated in a strip mall, nestled between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Despite these circumstances, I have never approached my work with greater enthusiasm. I now comprehend what you endeavored to convey to me that evening in your apartment. I understand the distinction between garnering respect and achieving notoriety, between constructing something tangible and fabricating an image that appears impressive in legal trade publications. For 8 years, I was married to a man who championed my aspirations, even when I failed to demonstrate a commensurate level of deservingness. I relinquished all of it, convinced that I needed to validate myself to individuals whose opinions should never have held sway. I understand that you likely have no desire to hear from me. I acknowledge that I have no claim to your forgiveness, your understanding, or even your acknowledgement of this letter's existence. Nevertheless, I felt compelled to inform you that I have undergone a transformation, not necessarily for the better, but demonstrably different. Real, it states, the woman who served you divorce papers at that social gathering was enacting a persona she believed she was obligated to embody. The woman composing this letter is simply Clara, striving to navigate the ramifications of her decisions and the bridges she has irrevocably burned. I do not anticipate forgiveness. I simply wished for you to be aware. Clara. I peruse the letter for a second time, then carefully fold it and place it within the desk drawer, designated for important documents. Those I am not prepared to discard, but do not deem necessary for daily review. Alongside tax returns, insurance policies, and the deed to this apartment, which I selected independently, a testament to my capacity to make my own decisions regarding my living space. The embers of anger toward Clara have long since extinguished. Bitterness, resentment, and any lingering desire for further retribution have dissipated. What remains is a melancholic detachment, a wistful contemplation of the woman she might have become had she discovered her true self prior to attempting to assume an altered identity. The profound irony is that the Clara who penned this missive, the one laboring in a modest legal clinic, accepting inadequate compensation to aid those genuinely in need, is the very woman I fell in love with a decade ago. She is the woman I would have steadfastly supported and encouraged, with whom I would have built a life had she existed beyond the confines of my recollection of her past self. However, that individual vanished somewhere between the culmination of law school and the initial accolades branding her a rising star in Manhattan's legal firmament. She was supplanted by someone whose focus shifted from substantive accomplishment to superficial appearances, prioritizing the perception of success over the execution of meaningful work. Perhaps Portland will offer her an opportunity to rediscover her authentic self. It is conceivable that working in that unassuming strip mall clinic will impart the distinction between merely having a career and possessing a genuine calling. She might come to grasp that respect is an earned commodity, cultivated through actions, not acquired through the appropriation of others' financial resources. Conversely, it is also possible that this is merely another performance, another meticulously crafted facade, designed to induce the belief that she has attained a level of self-awareness she has not actually achieved. I have been deceived by Clara Winters before, and prudent judgment suggests I should remain skeptical of any pronouncements, written or spoken, or purported convictions she may express. However, here lies the crux of being Marcus Hale. The onus of determining whether Clara's purported redemption arc is genuine or fabricated does not fall upon me. That is her personal challenge to confront, not mine. My phone buzzes with a text from Camille Rhodes, Dr. Camille Rhodes, who proved to be every bit as brilliant, witty, and genuinely engaging as she appeared on that inaugural evening of her unannounced visit. We have been seeing each other for 3 months now. If one can even categorize our interactions as dating, when two middle-aged professionals find themselves coordinating dinner plans between their demanding teaching schedules, discussing constitutional law over a bottle of wine as if it were the most natural occurrence in the world. Dinner at 7, I text back, that new Ethiopian place in the village. Perfect. Just finished grading papers. Ready for food that doesn't come with student complaints about grade curves. Bring the good wine. I have news about the Phoenix Legal expansion. The Phoenix Legal Collective has evolved into the most rewarding investment I've made in years, and that's not solely a financial assessment. Lydia Torres and her team have inaugurated 3 new offices across the city, recruited 47 additional attorneys, and achieved victories that have instilled genuine apprehension within corporate legal departments regarding their predatory practices toward vulnerable populations. Last month, they successfully persuaded a federal judge to certify a class action lawsuit against one of New York's most prominent property management firms, representing over 2,000 tenants who were unjustly levied with fees that were neither explained nor substantiated. The resultant settlement is projected to reach 8 figures, and every cent of it will be directed to individuals who are genuinely in need, rather than to attorneys already possessing an abundance of wealth. That, I realize, is the true manifestation of victory, when one is engaged in the act of creation, not destruction. when value is being generated, not merely redistributed from those who place their trust in you to those who subsequently betrayed that trust, I gaze out my window at the bustling street below, observing ordinary individuals leading uncomplicated lives, unburdened by the machinations of legal empires, the intricacies of corporate restructuring, or the pervasive anxiety that one's spouse might orchestrate a public humiliation at an event one has funded. A couple strolls hand in hand towards the subway, presumably en route to occupations that do not necessitate a constant scrutiny of motives or the meticulous documentation of every financial transaction, as if preparing for an impending conflict. This serene scene could very well be Camille and myself in 6 months, or perhaps a year, or at such a time as we mutually acknowledge the significance of our connection and decide to formalize it. Walking to dinner, unconcerned with urgent messages from legal counsel, financial advisors, or business partners who believe the world will cease to spin without their immediate responses to queries that could readily await resolution until the following day. The sunlight begins to recede, casting my apartment in graduating shades of gold and amber, imbuing the surroundings with an aura of warmth and boundless possibility. In approximately an hour, I will rendezvous with Camille at that charming Ethiopian establishment. Our conversation will likely encompass the strategic growth of Phoenix Legal, her ongoing research into legal ethics, and perhaps our aspirations for the upcoming weekend, when neither of us will be encumbered by the task of grading student papers or reviewing complex case files. Later this evening, I will return to this apartment, which is entirely my own, pour myself a glass of wine that perfectly reflects its intrinsic value, and immerse myself in a book entirely unrelated to the realms of business, law, retribution, or any of the preoccupying elements that have defined my existence over the past year. Tomorrow, I will impart knowledge to eager law students regarding the symbiotic relationship between entrepreneurship and ethical conduct, collaborate with Lydia Torres on devising strategies to fund legal clinics in underserved communities, and perhaps accompany Camille to an art gallery opening she has mentioned. The campaign against Clara has concluded. The reconstruction of Marcus Hale is complete, and for the first time in a period I can scarcely recall, the future presents itself not as a challenge to overcome, but as a landscape ripe for construction. I close the desk drawer, the letter from Clara nestled within, and proceed toward the window, where the final vestiges of the afternoon sun are transforming the cityscape into a tableau that evokes something akin to hope. The most profound form of retribution, I now understand, lies not in vanquishing one's adversaries, but in cultivating a life so fulfilling and triumphant that their past transgressions become utterly inconsequential. And that, I realize with absolute certainty, constitutes the ultimate triumph